Before the dances, before the memes, before the app became a global obsession, TikTok didn't even exist. Not in the West, not in headlines, not on anyone's radar. But somewhere in Beijing, in a quiet office filled with whiteboards, engineers, and long hours, something was being built. Something that would eventually shape the way over 1 billion people would spend their time, consume entertainment, and think about identity, fame, and culture. At the center of it all was a man you've probably never heard speak publicly. Zhang Yiming, soft-spoken, calculated, a coder by trade, an entrepreneur by instinct. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't trying to be Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. He just believed in one thing: algorithms could understand people better than people understood themselves. In 2012, Zhang founded a startup called ByteDance. It wasn't his first company, but it was his most ambitious. ByteDance didn't want to make gadgets or sell shoes. It wanted to organize the world's content. The company's first success wasn't TikTok. It was a Chinese news app called Toutiao, meaning headlines. But it wasn't just a news aggregator. It used machine learning to track what you read, how long you lingered, what you skipped, what you shared, and it evolved in real time. By 2015, Toutiao had over 120 million daily users in China, and ByteDance had become one of the most quietly powerful companies in Asia. But Zhang wasn't satisfied. He saw what people were doing on their phones in 2015. Swiping, scrolling, skipping. Photos, memes, jokes. Video. Always video. Especially short video. You saw Vine's rise in the US and how fast it died after Twitter neglected it. He saw Instagram move to video. He saw how Snapchat was morphing into a playground for Gen Z. And he asked himself, what if we built the ultimate short video machine? Not a social network, not a messaging app. Just one thing, an endless stream of dopamine, perfectly tailored to your brain. The idea became a prototype. The prototype became an app. In September 2016, ByteDance released Douyin in China. It looked like nothing special at first. 15-second vertical videos, music, filters, stickers, simple editing tools. It was basically just fun. But under the hood, it wasn't like other apps. It didn't just show you what was popular or what your friends posted. It showed you what you were statistically likely to watch, again and again. And if you lingered, if you watched the same clip twice, if you rewatched a dance, Douyin knew, and it fed you more. Within a year, Douyin had exploded in China, not just among teens, everyone. Factory workers, students, celebrities, retirees. It was snackable, unpredictable, and scarily addictive. ByteDance wasn't just building an app. They were building a new language of entertainment, where editing was fast, audio was king, and no attention span was too short. But Zhang Yiming wasn't interested in dominating just China. From the beginning, he made one thing clear to his board. We will go global, not by accident, not eventually, intentionally, as a strategy. And so ByteDance began quietly working on an international version of Douyin, not a simple copy-paste, a new app built with global infrastructure, global rules, global branding. A name? TikTok. In September 2017, TikTok launched in a few countries, softly, with no major push. People barely noticed. It looked like another Chinese Vine. Reviews were skeptical. The design felt foreign. The videos? Weird, random, awkward. Nobody took it seriously. Even people inside the tech world mocked it. But TikTok had two advantages no one could see yet: an unreasonably powerful algorithm and a very long fuse. Because ByteDance wasn't looking for overnight virality, they were laying tracks for a global takeover. And all it would take was one brilliant move. By late 2017, ByteDance had quietly launched the app in dozens of countries. They tweaked the algorithm, improved the interface, added localized content teams. But it still wasn't enough. The West wasn't biting. Most people either ignored TikTok or laughed it off. It felt like another failed export, and ByteDance knew time was running out. Then they found a shortcut. There was already a short video app popular in the West, especially in the US, and ByteDance had been watching it carefully. It wasn't huge, but it had something rare, a fiercely loyal teenage audience. That app was Musical.ly, created in 2014 by two Chinese entrepreneurs living in California. Musical.ly was originally a learning app. It completely flopped. So they pivoted, added music, camera effects, and lip syncing, and suddenly, something clicked. Kids loved it. Teens became obsessed with it. By 2016, Musical.ly was one of the most downloaded apps in the US App Store. But behind the viral dances and goofy filters, Musical.ly had a massive vulnerability. It wasn't profitable. Its back-end tech was shaky. Growth had slowed. The founders were struggling to monetize the wave they had accidentally created. In November 2017, ByteDance made its boldest move yet. It acquired 100% of Musical.ly for $1 billion in cash. Western media barely noticed. But inside ByteDance, this wasn't a business deal. It was a masterstroke, because with one move, they didn't just buy an app. They bought tens of millions of active American users, established creators, and deep knowledge of US teen culture. Then came the second part of the plan. Risky, unprecedented, and brilliant. ByteDance decided to kill Musical.ly entirely and merge it into TikTok. On August 2, 2018, a Musical.ly user woke up to a surprise. Their app had transformed overnight. Same accounts, same followers, same content, but now the logo was different. The name was different, and at the bottom of the screen, one word glowed: TikTok. There was no warning, no rebranding campaign, no explanation. Just like that, ByteDance had transferred a massive US audience into a Chinese-built platform without anyone really noticing. It was one of the boldest digital migrations in tech history, and it worked. Suddenly, TikTok wasn't just some foreign app trying to break into the US. It was the US, at least for Gen Z. Thousands of teenage creators woke up inside TikTok and just kept posting. Their fans kept watching, the feed kept scrolling, and the algorithm? It was better than anything they had seen before, because TikTok wasn't just Musical.ly with new branding. It had ByteDance's full AI engine behind it. The For You page became a hypnotic loop of perfectly tailored content. It didn't matter if you had 1 follower or 1 million. If your video was good, or even just watchable, it could reach the entire world. And that's when the magic started. The lip-sync videos stayed, but something was changing. The content got weirder, funnier, stranger. There were skits, pranks, odd animations, POVs, fake interviews, story times, duets. TikTok started birthing formats, not just clips. Audio was used like memes, remixed, recontextualized, recycled. Editing became a language of its own. Zooms, cuts, on-beat transitions. For the first time, a platform didn't just promote creators, it trained them. Even people with no editing skills could suddenly look like pros. A phone, a ring light, and an idea. That's all you needed. And the reward? Views, likes, followers, attention. TikTok wasn't a social network. It was an entertainment machine. And the kids? They stayed on it for hours. By the end of 2018, TikTok had been downloaded over 660 million times globally. It hit number 1 in the US App Store, beating out Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and YouTube. Parents didn't understand it. Teachers tried to ban it. Marketers whispered, "What the hell is TikTok?" And teenagers, they were already building entire careers on the app. It was viral, unstoppable, addictive. But it was just getting started, because in 2019, TikTok would stop being a teen trend and start becoming a cultural force. By early 2019, TikTok wasn't just some app the kids were using anymore. It was everywhere, on phones, on screens, in classrooms, living rooms, offices. People started hearing the same songs over and over, phrases echoing from rooms behind closed doors, lights flashing from tripods at 2 a.m., and someone whispering, "Wait, are you filming a TikTok right now?" It was seeping into the real world, one For You page at a time. But most adults still didn't really get it, and that's exactly why it worked. Because for once, there was a corner of the internet where the rules were new, the voices were different, and the old generation didn't control the conversation. The For You page was chaos and magic. You didn't need followers to go viral. You didn't need fame to be funny. You just needed one moment, and the algorithm would do the rest. One good video, and you were being watched by millions. The app wasn't about who you followed. It was about what you paused on, what you rewatched, what made you laugh or blink or stop scrolling for even half a second. That was enough. The machine noticed, and when it did, it amplified you. For creators, TikTok was freedom. Unlike Instagram, where everything had to be perfect, or YouTube, where videos needed hours of editing, TikTok rewarded raw energy, fast execution, and creativity inside limitation. 6 seconds, 15, 60. That's all you had to make an impact. And people did. Teenagers made comedy sketches in hoodies. Dancers recorded routines in bedrooms. Storytellers delivered cliffhangers from the driver's seat of their cars. And all of it looked real, unpolished, relatable. That was the point. And while Gen Z were the first to build their identities around TikTok, everyone else started watching too. Parents, teachers, CEOs, even politicians. They came for curiosity and stayed for the algorithm. Suddenly, adults were quoting TikToks at dinner. Brands were trying to go viral. Celebrities were joining the conversation. But it was too late to take control, because TikTok wasn't a trend anymore. It had become a language. And then came the pandemic. When COVID-19 hit in 2020, the world shut down. Cities emptied. Schools closed. Offices turned into bedrooms. And people turned to their phones, not just for distraction, but for connection. While every other platform was filled with panic and politics, TikTok exploded with creativity, community, and pure chaos. People baked bread, dyed their hair, learned dances, created pandemic characters, filmed quarantine diaries, and told jokes through pain. TikTok became therapy in 60 seconds, and people couldn't get enough. In April 2020 alone, TikTok was downloaded more than 115 million times, the highest monthly installs of any app in history. And for the first time, everyone, from grandmothers to celebrities, started to see what made the platform so dangerous and so powerful. It was fast, it was sticky, it was unpredictable. And it wasn't owned by Silicon Valley. That scared a lot of people. Governments began asking questions. Was it tracking users? Was it censoring content? Was China watching? Could this app manipulate thought on a global scale? And while those questions brewed in back rooms and newsrooms, TikTok users kept dancing, joking, confessing, crying, coping. Because for millions of people stuck inside their homes, TikTok was the only window out. It launched careers, created stars, rewrote the music industry. Songs that would have gone unnoticed charted worldwide because TikTok made them viral. Unknown artists became Grammy nominees, independent brands became sold-out businesses. Regular people became creators, and creators became something new entirely: cultural engineers. The algorithm didn't just reflect the world, it shaped it, and people started realizing this app wasn't just changing how we consume content. It was changing how we express ourselves, how we discover, how we think, and that terrified legacy platforms. Instagram began copying TikTok's features, launching Reels. YouTube rolled out Shorts. Facebook tried to keep up. But the soul wasn't there. Because what TikTok had was something no one else could replicate: the most addictive, adaptive content engine ever built, powered by one of the most refined AI systems in consumer history. It wasn't just showing you what was popular, it was predicting what you would make popular before even you knew it. By the end of 2020, TikTok wasn't an app. It was the most culturally influential platform on Earth. No one expected it to happen like this. Not the users, not the creators, not even the team inside TikTok's US offices. One day, the world was scrolling, dancing, laughing, creating. The next, the most powerful man on Earth pointed his finger and said, "We're banning TikTok." Just like that, like the flick of a switch, on July 31st, 2020, then-President Donald Trump told reporters aboard Air Force One that he planned to ban TikTok from the United States. No press release, no warning, just an announcement, loud, blunt, and terrifying. The reason? National security. According to Trump and his administration, TikTok's Chinese ownership made it a threat. The fear was that ByteDance, under pressure from the Chinese government, could be forced to hand over user data, or worse, manipulate what Americans see. The idea sounded wild. But in the context of trade wars, cyber espionage, and rising tensions between the US and China, it hit a nerve. Suddenly, TikTok was no longer just a viral app. It was a symbol, a pawn, a target, and the clock was ticking. Inside TikTok, panic set in. Lawyers scrambled, executives stayed up all night. Creators, some of whom had built their entire careers on the app, posted desperate videos. What will we do without this platform? Where do we go now? The vibe online shifted. There was fear, confusion, rage. Hashtags trended, petitions launched. But no one really knew what was happening behind closed doors. Trump signed an executive order giving TikTok 45 days to sell its U.S. operations, or face a ban. ByteDance had to find an American buyer fast. Companies like Microsoft, Oracle, and Walmart entered the negotiation arena. It felt like a tech soap opera. Rumors flew. Would Microsoft take over TikTok? Would it be split in half? Would it disappear completely? All the while, the app kept running. People kept posting. The algorithm kept feeding. But in the background, the fate of TikTok in the United States hung by a thread. ByteDance faced impossible pressure: appease the U.S. government without surrendering its crown jewel. And then, in a twist no one saw coming, a bizarre deal was announced. TikTok wouldn't be banned, but it wouldn't exactly be saved either. The plan? A new company called TikTok Global, partly owned by Oracle and Walmart, with data stored in the U.S. and overseen by an American board. ByteDance would still own the core technology, but the branding and operations would become more American. It was a compromise that satisfied no one fully, but it worked. The ban was postponed, then paused, then quietly forgotten. And then something even more unexpected happened. Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. With a new president in office, the tone changed. Biden's administration launched its own review but avoided the scorched earth approach. TikTok's legal threats evaporated. The platform stayed alive. And after months of crisis, it only grew stronger. In fact, the attempt to ban TikTok may have backfired. It elevated the app's status. It made it global news. It gave it street credibility. Now, TikTok wasn't just an app for dances, it was the app that survived a presidential ban. That energy carried over. It attracted new users. It made old ones more loyal. And it hardened ByteDance's mission. Never again would they be caught unprepared. Behind the scenes, TikTok beefed up its infrastructure. They opened transparency centers, launched a US-based trust and safety team, pushed educational content, rolled out tools to moderate misinformation. All moves meant to show we're not just some Chinese company. We're global. We belong here. But underneath all the diplomacy and PR campaigns, a deeper shift was happening. TikTok realized something during the chaos. They weren't just a social platform. They were geopolitical. And in this new reality, they had to play both sides, be global yet local, free yet cautious, massive yet invisible. By 2021, TikTok had not only survived, it had won. Over 1 billion monthly active users, more downloads than any other app, and a new sense of identity, not just as a trend machine, but as a survivor. And in the chaos of that near-death experience, something crystallized. TikTok wasn't going anywhere, and the world knew it. Surviving a global political attack would have been enough for most platforms. But TikTok didn't just survive, it accelerated. By 2021, the app had shed its label as the place where kids dance and emerged as something much bigger, much stranger, and far more powerful. It wasn't just a video feed. It was a mirror of youth, of creativity, of chaos, of humanity. It was no longer just part of culture. It was culture. The evidence was everywhere. Look at the music charts. Every week, a new song would explode, not because of radio or Spotify playlists or major label campaigns, but because some random 17-year-old made a funny dance, a trend, or a joke using that track in a 12-second TikTok. Savage Love, Say So, Blinding Lights, Astronaut in the Ocean, ABCDFU, Running Up That Hill. The hits of the 2020s weren't born in studios. They were born in bedrooms, dorm rooms, kitchens, parking lots. TikTok wasn't just influencing music, it was controlling the sound of a generation. Record labels noticed, then they panicked, then they adapted. Entire A&R teams were rebuilt to track TikTok trends. Marketing budgets were redirected. Artists were signed based on their TikTok reach, not just talent. Some songs were created specifically to be TikTokable, short, catchy, fast, emotional, and meme-friendly. Artists started teasing tracks directly on TikTok, letting fans shape the vibe before the song even dropped. And just like that, TikTok had taken an ancient industry and completely rewritten its rulebook in under 2 years. But it didn't stop at music. TikTok became a launchpad for anything and everything. Books, movies, TV shows, clothing lines, vegan snacks, cleaning products, political campaigns. Netflix found out early you didn't need to buy ads when TikTok users made a trend out of Squid Game or Wednesday or The Queen's Gambit. Viewers didn't just consume content anymore. They remixed it, reframed it, danced with it, dressed like it, quoted it until it bled into real life. Every brand wanted in. Every influencer tried to adapt, but few truly understood the TikTok rhythm. It wasn't about polish or perfection. It was about authenticity that felt effortless, even if it was calculated. You had to move fast, adapt faster, and let the community carry the idea rather than forcing it down their throats. Brands that tried to be cool usually failed, but the ones that listened, collaborated, experimented, they thrived. Because TikTok wasn't a megaphone. It was a playground. Meanwhile, creators were evolving into something new. They weren't just influencers. They were multi-format storytellers, trendsetters, editors, sound designers, culture hackers. One day they were comedians, the next educators, the next accidental journalists. The best ones didn't just follow trends. They created the formats that trends were made of. POVs, transitions, character skits. Tell me without telling me. green screen monologues. TikTok was building a new grammar of internet communication, and the people shaping it weren't media companies, they were just people with phones. They were just people with phones. And those phones held power, political power, cultural power, psychological power. TikTok's impact on attention spans, identity, self-expression, it was all still being studied, but one thing was clear: it was unlike anything before it. The app blurred boundaries between watching and creating, between entertainment and reality, between self and performance. People didn't log onto TikTok to see the world. They logged in to see what the algorithm thought they needed to see, and then shape it in return. And then came the attention economy. TikTok didn't invent it, but it perfected it. Every second mattered. Every swipe was a signal. Every piece of content was judged instantly. And creators adapted. Hooks became sharper. Cuts became faster. You had 1.5 seconds to prove your worth, or you were gone. This wasn't just a platform. It was a training ground for storytelling in the age of infinite content. And it rewarded those who mastered the rhythm. And in mastering it, TikTok creators started bleeding into every other platform. Instagram Reels, full of TikTok reposts. YouTube Shorts, TikTok with a new logo. Twitter Threads, often just transcribed TikToks. Memes, born on TikTok, then filtered into the rest of the web like cultural runoff. TikTok wasn't just influencing content, it was shaping the structure of the internet itself. But perhaps the biggest shift wasn't technical, it was philosophical. TikTok changed what it meant to be seen. You didn't need a following to go viral. You didn't need to be perfect. You didn't need to be famous. You just had to exist and tap into the right sound, the right cut, the right feeling at the right time. And in doing so, TikTok gave people something more than views. It gave them permission to create, to try, to post, to fail, to laugh at themselves. For millions of people who never thought they were content creators, TikTok said, "Yes, you are. Press record." By 2022, TikTok wasn't competing with social media. It was leading a new internet, one where culture is created from the bottom up, where algorithms are curators, and where entertainment is endless, personal, and always changing. It had shaped a new generation of artists, thinkers, comedians, entrepreneurs, and everyday voices. And for better or worse, the world was listening. Because this wasn't just an app anymore, it was a global language. TikTok was never supposed to last this long. Most people thought it would be a phase, a trend, a fleeting moment in digital culture. Like Vine, like Clubhouse, like so many viral apps before it. But TikTok didn't fade. It evolved. It dug in. It grew teeth. And by 2023, it was no longer just the biggest video platform, it was becoming a full-stack digital ecosystem. The signs were everywhere. TikTok Shop launched quietly, then expanded like wildfire. Suddenly, scrolling and shopping weren't separate actions. They were one. You watched a video, and with a single tap, you could buy the product, see the reviews, watch more reactions. It was commerce wrapped in entertainment, selling wrapped in story. It didn't feel like advertising, it felt like discovery, and users loved it. Creators weren't just influencers anymore. They were small business owners, product designers, live streamers, affiliate marketers. Some were making more from live stream shopping than brand deals. Some were building entire companies within the TikTok universe. It wasn't just a content platform anymore. It was becoming a marketplace, an economy, a career path, and for many, a lifeline. Meanwhile, TikTok's grip on culture only tightened. Political movements, health advice, spiritual awakenings, financial trends, conspiracy theories, everything had a place. And everything spread fast, too fast, faster than fact-checkers, faster than regulators, faster than people could emotionally process. The platform had become a collective nervous system, one that pulsed with emotion, opinion, and influence at every moment of the day. And this speed came with consequences. Governments took notice. Again, new bans were proposed. Investigations launched. In Europe, data regulators circled. In the US, TikTok was hauled into Congress once more. This time, the questions were sharper. Who controls the algorithm? Where does the data go? What happens when you shape the thoughts of an entire generation? TikTok responded with transparency centers, data policies, statements about independence. But the deeper fear remained. This app knows us too well, better than we know ourselves. It finishes our sentences before we start typing. It shows us who we are before we're ready to see it. And while that fear grew, so did the platform. AI became the next frontier. TikTok's editing tools, filters, voice changers, they were just the beginning. Soon came AI avatars, AI music, auto-editing, auto-storytelling. TikTok was teaching the world how to create, and then quietly replacing the need for creators at all. The line between user and algorithm blurred. Some videos were entirely AI-made. Some accounts were AI-run, and no one could always tell the difference. Reality started to shift. Young users weren't just spending time on TikTok, they were living there. Relationships formed there, emotions sparked there, time lost there. Many would admit TikTok was the first thing they opened in the morning, the last thing they saw at night, a place more personal than their homes, more intimate than their relationships, more stimulating than real life. And TikTok knew this. That's why the app kept evolving. Into education, into gaming, into finance, into mental health tools, into AR filters, into live stream concerts, into everything. TikTok wasn't aiming to be a tool. It was aiming to be a digital world, a place where you could work, learn, play, buy, love, and disappear. A place more responsive than reality, more addictive than connection, more you than you. But that raises a final question. What happens when a platform becomes more powerful than the governments trying to regulate it? More addictive than the substances we ban? More real than the lives we live? What happens when your feed knows your future before you do? TikTok's greatest strength is also its deepest danger. It's not just showing us what we like. It's shaping who we are. And the more we scroll, the more it learns. The more it learns, the more it curates. The more it curates, the less we explore. Until one day, the feed isn't just reflecting our identity, it becomes it. And maybe that's the final twist. Maybe TikTok isn't the future of entertainment. Maybe TikTok is the future.